welcome to a moment with Vivacious. Those of us that fought the good fight of faith and didn't win, we're adjusting today. But we have to be ready. We got to work even harder now. Um, that we didn't win. I think Vice President Harris's conceding was very gracious, and I appreciate her for that. And I don't regret one dime spent, 1 hour, 1 minute of work that we all put in through it. I just want to say thank you to everybody for that. But tonight we have our guest with us. She's going to introduce herself. Um, and she's the most honorable Valencia Stovall. But she'll be on in just a minute. We'll be right back. Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious, a freedom ride where we the people gather to build ourselves, our family, our community, and our nation. For the sound of America for Progress has reached critical mass. Understanding that we must put aside our differences to focus on the greater good. This is a place of collaboration to rebuild and restore our nation. Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious. Hello. And thank you, Sigrid, for always being faithful to Moments with Vivacious. And tonight I have with us Chief Mrs. Honorable Valencia Stovall. I want you guys to know I met this lady in the capital of Georgia, working hard for the people, honest and real. Just introduce yourself to us. I'm so excited to have you with us tonight.
Well, thank you so much, Vivacious Speaks, and for reaching out to me and allowing me this opportunity and space to be on your show. I am very honored to be in your presence and those of your listening audience. I am, most people know me as Honorable Stovall, and I was served as a state representative for 8 years in Georgia. My district was in Clayton County, and during that time, we got, like she said, beat me down at the state capitol. We through D Hill, we had the first ever Men and Women in Radio Day at the state capitol, and then subsequently, year after year, we recognize women in radio at the state capitol. And so it's always exciting anytime I get a chance to be in the presence of women and men in radio. I'm always excited. But serving as a state legislator, also a business owner, family business for over 30 something years, and also start another business that helps with Georgia Youth Career Center that help young people to decide what are the best careers for them, and also being able to give them opportunities to that they normally would not have for exposure for those careers. And since leaving office in 2020, I still do a lot of advocacy work in my community, so I stay involved with knowing everything else that I should know and what people tell me as well.
Well, we say a real leader is a servant.
Yes.
And being a politician doesn't mean just holding office. If we're going to build a political system, this democracy, we need people like you who are going to do the work, whether you're in the office or not. I'm going to do the work, and I'm going to represent the people. And that's what Vivacious Speaks and Moments with Vivacious is all about. Teaching and bringing people to the point of becoming conscious of what's going on around them and in their environment, and becoming a part of that. And I've seen you work to bring people out, to bring you apart. You're as big a part as this is me. No matter what position you held or held, very high one in regards, in my eyes.
Thank
And we're thankful for that. We're grateful. We're thankful for all that you give. So tonight, I want to talk about, if we could start talking about, and with my head held high, I want to talk about the presidential race. But I also want to talk about, there were so many things that's on the ballot. And I'm going to say all of this because I'm going to let you talk, okay? There's so many things on the ballot that was really like close to our lives. But I think some of us were so focused on the presidential election, we didn't see the DA in Fulton County. Well, I'm Fulton County now. DA in Fulton County, and the transportation that could have taken them in and out of Atlanta and had, better jobs. So I want to talk about why every election is important and why every seat is important. But I also want to talk about, and maybe I'll intervene a little bit when we get back to that part, about the presidential election and the outcome.
Okay. Yes, most definitely. Every election is important, and unfortunately, for so many people, there's always a huge focus on the presidential election, and many think that's the be all, the end all, and it's not. Your local elections are actually, in my opinion, more important or just as important, I would say, as your national elections. And we say national elections, which are your president, vice president, those that are in Congress on the House and the Senate side, which we as Americans are able to elect representation to represent us or what things are important for us as far as issues. And when there's such a huge focus on every 4 years for presidential elections, a lot of local issues end up being overshadowed. So, like you mentioned about the amendments that were on the ballot, there were like 3 amendments that were statewide amendments that the people had to vote on that for changes. One was dealing with homestead exemption, if you wanted to increase that. The other one was dealing with creating a Georgia tax court was another one, and the other one was increasing exemption on personal property was another one, another amendment. Even though, even with all of those 3 amendments, some people voted and understood, and a whole lot of people did not understand, and some may have skipped it. But all the amendments did pass and will go into effect the first part of January. But even you mentioned about the transportation. So I think Cobb and Gwinnett both had a transportation legislation on their ballots to vote on. And
Yes.
you're right. And I don't think it may not have been enough information given out saying, listen, there's always this stigma about, I don't want crime coming to my area, because when you have public transportation, that brings crime to the area. And when I would hear that, and even the time that Clayton County was in discussion with MARTA about we had lost our transportation, then we were up for renewing it or bringing it back to the county, which was going to include a 1% sales tax. So that was the other thing with Gwinnett and Cobb. Many people did not want to, pay an additional sales tax. But one thing about the sales tax, everybody pays that. It's not specific to homeowners or business owners. Everybody pays that tax. But there was a conversation about not wanting crime coming into the different areas in Clayton County. And like you said, at the end of the day, people need transportation to get back and forth. People need transportation not just for jobs, but if they're going back and forth to appointments to the doctor, or just they want to go out and have fun, a family night out, and you don't want to drive through traffic. You want to be able to take public transportation.
Yes. So I'm hoping that, we want to cause people to think. We say this is a revolution, and a revolution is going to bring about change, bringing the power of democracy to the people. So that's our goal. Honorable Stovall. That's our goal here. So we wanna um, talk about the presidential race. But for me, I'm hoping people understand no matter how low we think he can go, we have to stand tall. You know, he's our president, he's gonna be our president in January again, and we're gonna have to find a way to work with him. And both houses now may be Republicans, so that almost going to shut us out because they're saying that calling the Democrats us, who are everybody is not a Democrat. I mean, I'm just trying to distinguish this. The other side.
Mm-hmm.
That's how can we be the other side? We are one nation. Can we talk about how we're going to deal with that? Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so let me back up just a little bit. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I've noticed and have noticed even when I was elected, even I recently ran for state senate in Clayton and Fayette County. And one of the things I always noticed, a lot of people, you know, when it came to civics in high school and middle school and even in elementary school, a lot of people just didn't pay attention or just said, I don't need that information. And understanding the structure of our Constitution is very, very important, especially when it's time like these where people are so disenchanted with the results of the election. Well, some people are excited, and then you have another group that is just feel like they're devastated. I was looking at some of the posts that they are just like, oh, the world is going to come to an end. It's not coming to an end, everybody. You know, but you understand the branches of government, which are three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. And those are in place by our founding fathers of this Constitution because it has to be a balance in power. We do not live in a country that's a dictatorship. So although we may have heard, oh, this president's going to do this president's going to do that, there is what we call some bumpers in the road that there's a process that has to take place. I'm not saying some of the stuff won't happen, but there's a process behind it. And because of that, that gives me great relief to knowing that you don't have one person that can make decisions all by himself, or even if the other candidate had won, all by herself. And even when you look at the process of the election of how we even elect our president through the electoral college, those were set up as guardrails as well. Now, on our local level, and even the ones that are in Congress, the only office that electoral college is used for is the president's office, president and vice president. But everyone else, your U.S. House of Representatives, your U.S. Senate, and then you go down to the state level, state rep, state Senate, governor, lieutenant governor, statewide positions, your city mayor, your county commissioners, your judges, even the judges on the statewide judges are all elected by the people. The only office, again, that is elected through the electoral college process is the president and vice president. And even with that, it's two steps with that as well. You have what's called the state party. So you talked about Democrat and Republican Party. Those are the two major parties that are recognized in the United States. Although we have independent parties, we have libertarians as well, and we have independent. But in some states, there's a process to be able to be recognized when it comes to being on the ballot without having to get any signatures. So that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But I just wanted to kind of slow everybody down a little bit and hopefully bring some kind of relief to know that there are guardrails in place. Now, I'm not saying that when you mentioned earlier, you have the House, the Senate. I think according to what I was looking at earlier, we have 100 senators, and there are 2 senators per state. So Georgia, like in Georgia, we have 2 U.S. senators, and those terms are usually 6-year terms that they serve. Your U.S. House of Representatives are 2 years. So every 2 years, you're electing your U.S. House of Representatives. So right now, as of the election results, you have the Republicans at 52 senators and the Democrats at 44, which means that they do have a majority, which you mentioned earlier. On the House side, they're still counting those numbers to kind of see what the final, but as of this evening, I think afternoon, it was the Republicans at 197 and the Democrats 188. And there are 435 members of that represent us in Congress. So you may have some differences in numbers because they're still adding those numbers up to see what it's going to look like. So in layman's term, what does that mean for America? When you hear
The
me
world wants to know.
yeah, the world wants to know. I try my best to break it down and make it simple. So you have now a Republican president, a Republican vice president, and if the numbers stay true with the House and the Senate, you would now have a majority Republican Senate, and you also have a majority Republican House. That means that any piece of legislation or bills that come through the House or the Senate, and if it's Republican led, which means the Republicans will be introducing those bills, the likelihood of them passing are very high. Just like in Georgia, we're in a Republican controlled legislature, which means that we have legislature and executive body. So we have a governor that is Republican, lieutenant governor Republican, and majority of the House and the Senate are Republican led. So for those who don't necessarily agree or don't agree with the Republican agenda, then you may have some cause for alarm. But one thing I wanted to share with you during my time as a state legislator, I was serving as a Democrat for the 8 years that I served. But I was able to work across the aisle. So when you talk about, how do you move forward, you have to have being able to work across the aisle. That means working with your opposite legislature or opposite party. And there are some things that we share alike. And then, of course, there's some things that we don't share that are not alike. And that's what differentiates the party. And so what I did and made me successful was I found those things that I could agree with the opposing party or the opposite party or the party on the other side of the aisle, which in my case was the Republicans. Now, that was not always favorable with my other colleagues who were Democrats. And many times we were at odds with each other internally with it. And even sometimes there were Republicans that were internally at odds. So don't think that because they're all Republicans, they always agree. They do not. And just like Democrats, all of them don't always agree. So finding those things that you can agree on and you work towards that, but it has to be an open communication. You cannot shut down and say, because I'm a Democrat and my candidate did not win, I'm going to get disengaged. I'm not going to pay attention to the process. Even if on the state level, and even on the federal level, if your U.S. representative or senator is Republican and you're a Democrat, you still have a right to contact them because they are still elected for the people. They might not have been elected by your vote, but they're still elected for the people. And you start having that relationship, building that relationship. I'm not saying all of them are friendly and all of them are going to respond, but you have to start somewhere. And so part of my success was being able to have 2 bills that were passed during my tenure. It was not easy to get bills passed because there's a limited amount that Democrats are able to pass. I know in the state of Georgia, I can't speak about anywhere else. So, and it's usually about 10 bills on the average out of 200 and something bills that do make it to the governor's desk for signing. So when you're looking at that, being able to work across the aisle is important. We mentioned earlier about even with reparation, any issue, you have to be open and be willing to compromise. I'm not saying compromising your morals or anything like that. There's a limit to everything, but you got to be willing to, and be open to have that discussion. But if you continue, if the Democrats, those who are so upset, continue to be closed minded, you're not going to get anything. It's like they said, when your hand is closed, nothing can get in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I wanted to kind of share that part because everybody is, oh my goodness, he said he gonna do this and he said he gonna do that. Everything is a process. Everything's a process. And I'm not saying some of the stuff he won't do, please don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying that there's a process to it. He can't just go in and it's gonna happen just like that. Because he's gonna have some that are in opposition of that also hold a vote because everything has to be voted on unless it's an executive order. And then there's only so much executive order that he can do as the president because of the check and balance that we have in the Constitution. And then even when you're looking at the court system as well. So I just wanted to make sure I shared that. And I'll stop there because you might have some other questions.
No, I don't have no questions.
Okay.
I mean, like this is a conversation, and it's a very needed conversation because I was the same way. I was ready for war. We're gonna have war. We're gonna have civil war. No, I'm fighting back. And I think it was last week or it was recently. Let me just say, we were talking about. We felt like he was gonna turn the country down. Cut us all off. And I was telling everybody, have money in your house, make sure you have a way to defend yourself, and keep food. And, so many of us are preparing. So many of us, Honorable Stovall, so many of us are preparing to have food for days. We don't know how long. I was telling them, I don't know if they start shooting up and bombing up Atlanta. Well, that's what I thought would happen if he lost, but he won. So praise God. I hope nothing like that happens. That I just say I might be stuck on the other side because I work on the other side. I had prepared to stay with someone. So we are really afraid in this nation, in this conversation, and the information you're bringing to us is so is so needed right now. We need this to bring peace to ourselves and to be able to go on for tomorrow. So talking about these things is really, really good. Like he said he was going to get rid of all the inner enemy, and the inner enemy was the person. The enemy from within is the people that opposed him. And how he's going to just frisk walk and frisk or whatever. I don't know her whole name. He's going to bring all that back. So what's going to happen to our sons walking down the street? We have a lot to think about, and I think that this is awesome. That there's no value we can put to the things that you're giving us today. So even the things that I mentioned, like he have us what we're gonna do for our children, what we're gonna in that project 2025. How do we intervene with some of the things that's written in that project? You got it. You going on. We don't want to interrupt that. We need to hear you, and we appreciate you so much.
Yes. So when it comes down to him getting his enemies back, I'm not saying he's not going to do it. I'm pretty sure he's those who opposed him, they're on that list. But I think if you keep so much focus on all the things he's saying he's going to do, then you start losing focus on things that could actually happen that may even be beneficial that nobody even thought about because they're so focused on him getting back these particular people. And so even with that, like I would give you an example. I wrote down some things for people who may be business owners, and if you're not a business owner, you may want to think about being a business owner. There are some policies that the Republicans, have in place that are beneficial for business owners that you might not even have thought about because you're so focused on, oh, this gonna happen, that gonna happen. And I'm not saying don't stack up on your food and all of that, because I don't know what's gonna happen. But some things I do know is that when I say the Republicans have to live in this same country as we live in as well. And only so much is gonna, in my opinion, is gonna happen. Like I said, I'm not downplaying the severity of some people that just have some mental challenges and just don't like people because they're not their same color or the choices that they make, there's not hatred. But there was hatred during Democrats being in power. Even when Joe Biden, President Biden and Harris are in power, you still saw people doing things. So it's not that that's gonna, because he's in office now, it's gonna be a whole nother thing. Yeah, it may be, but it's still, that's just like somebody say, I'm moving to one area because they don't have crime. Crime is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you keep your focus on the negative, then you can't even see what the positive is because you're so overwhelmed about all of this that's going to happen, and you'll miss out on some things that may end up being beneficial to you and your family. And like I was talking about with the businesses, because the Republican do believe in our free enterprise system of having business, working, providing products and all of that, there may be some opportunities for people that didn't even think about it. If I give you an example, during COVID, there was a lot of things that changed when it came to small business owners, and they call them gig workers. That never have happened before. Of course, we never had a COVID-19 before. But even during that time in office, there were some people that ended up getting PPP loans. The Small Business Administration gave out loans, and some of them you didn't have to pay back. Some you did, and others were forgivable loans. So if you're looking at, okay, how can I best benefit up on what's called, people call a Trump administration or a Republican administration, you go and look at it, what is it that they're going to be pushing for? Because one thing is that this economy has to continue to go, and the economy is driven off of small business. 60% of people that are employed in America are employed by small business owners. So if you're not a small business owner, you might want to become a small business owner so you could be able to benefit. You hear all those about tax cuts and all that. No, the regular person who may don't have a business might not see the benefit of it. But if you have a business, then some of the things and policies that are going to be put in place are going to be geared towards business owners. So that may be, something to be able to look at that you might not even thought about, looking at that part. So, like I said, I'm not downplaying, some of the things that have been said, even with the Project 2025. It's still a process. It's still a process. And the more people stay engaged and continue to ask questions, because when you think about it, when people become angry, they become disengaged. And when they become disengaged, a lot more things end up happening because you're not paying attention. So this is not the time to be so upset that you become disengaged. I don't care. I don't like our system, and he should have never got elected. All those people that voted for him, it was a reason that some people voted for him. Everybody had different reasons who ended up voting for him, just like people had different reasons they voted for Harris. There, you have some people that are suffering, and they said upon the Biden-Harris administration, they are suffering too much. The gas is too high. Your food is too much. You can't hardly afford it. People are losing their houses. People are losing their jobs, and all of these things. So if that was important to that voter, guess what? They're going to vote according to the person or the individual that is resonating to what is important to them. If you're a person that don't want to go to war, and we all know that if Trump said, hey, this is going to do everything he told you, yeah, you can believe that's what he's going to do. He's not going to lie about it. So if not going to war is more important to you than anything else, then guess what? You might say, well, hey, I'm gonna vote for him because I know he gonna stop that money going over there to Ukraine, all that money that could be staying here in America. Or he's going to promote more American businesses, American made and manufactured here in our country, than going overseas. And the tariffs that he said he's going to impose could be beneficial, and they could not be. But you wouldn't know if you keep your eyes closed and you're so mad and upset that you can't see what's the positive that can come out of this. And even with all of that, at the end of the day, God is still in control. No matter what the situation may look like, he's still in control. And he's, if you have the faith and you believe that he said that the righteous would not be forsaken, and nor the seed begging bread, and you part of the righteous and you're part of his seed, he's going to take care of you, just like he did through the last Trump administration, like he did through the Biden-Harris administration that we're going through now. So, I appreciate you allowing me to come on to just tell people it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. But if you believe it in your mind and you keep it in your heart, then it is going to be a struggle for you to survive up under this administration and up under what the Republican Party is doing. And if I can, I want to touch on a few things as far as why weren't the Democrats as successful as they should have been? Because there were some things that they did that they should not have done. One was, you cannot say we live in a country of freedom and you don't allow the voters to decide on their primary candidate. The Democratic Party leadership knew that President Biden had health issues. They knew that way before he decided he was going to run for a second term. But they didn't do anything about it. The Republican Party, they held a primary. They allowed their voters to decide who they wanted to be their primary, their candidate for president. They chose Trump. That's who they chose. Now, on the Democratic side, the Democratic voters did not get a chance to select who they wanted to be their presidential candidate. It was shoved down their throat to say, this is who we want, and we only got these many days to get it done. Well, you didn't even have to have a choice of having those many days had they allowed the people to do the right process at the right time. That's one thing. The next thing is that there was no unity and they were unorganized. You can't not think that not pushing the primary election, that's what they should have been pushing, primary election, getting people out in May, before May's election, getting them out and talking to them about the upcoming presidential election. They did not do a strong push for primary elections that were held in May. They had very low voter turnout. Then all of a sudden now, we need to get these people out to vote. How you going to motivate people that didn't even vote in the primary? You think all this what you're going to say, bringing out celebrities, having DJs at the polls? Why did you need to do all of that? If you had been making sure people were civically involved with what was going on during that primary election, then the transition going into the November election, you wouldn't have to be doing tugging and pulling, almost putting throwing people in the car, taking them to go vote. Why? You didn't need to do all of that. Next thing.
But I'm going to say something about that. Mm-hmm. I want to say that I, alone in my push, got many people who had never voted before to the poll. Mm-hmm. People came out to the poll. And I think that no matter, I agree with the primary part, but I think we did a good job at getting people out to the polls, and we got a large number of people who never voted before to come out to the polls. So I think that part was good. I think that was okay, and I enjoyed the one rally I went to. I enjoyed it. It was good, and it was overflow.
So I appreciate you saying that, Vivacious. It's not that I'm saying that those who put in the effort did not do a great job. They did a fantastic job. We had record numbers, and that even goes back to an issue that the Democrats brought up when the Republicans changed the way that voting was going to happen in Georgia. They said it was going to disenfranchise voters. Well, they end up not being true, because if we had record number of voters that came out, how were they disenfranchised? They weren't. So what I'm saying, why did you all? It should not have been that you had to do all this extra effort within 2 to 3 months of a November election, when there's still, I think, about maybe 12 million people that did not even vote. So if things had been in place and started much earlier, yeah, the momentum would have been there. And everybody wouldn't have to do such a hard push of convincing people, come on, I need you to go vote. Contact this many people, do this. I mean, all of this. Then you had some people were getting paid, and other people, they was telling to volunteer. Why you were telling the other people to volunteer if people were getting paid? So, like I said, and because I know.
Because that's how it works. Some people get paid, some people volunteer.
No, there were some people that didn't know that they could have got paid, but they had them up under the auspices of them volunteering. So some of the stuff that I'm telling you and I'm expressing is because I have internal knowledge of
but that's okay. But
the average person, the average voter would not have a clue about what I'm talking about. They wouldn't understand it. And like I said, I'm not taking away from the momentum, the rallies and all of that. It was, it was good, and it was a good experience. But when you start talking about what could have been done, and even looking into 2 more years, we're going to be at a governor's race. We're going to have a U.S. Senate race that's going to be taking place in Georgia. Now, if everybody's head is down because they lost and nobody starts the momentum now, getting prepared for the Georgia and lieutenant governor and out in about 7 statewide positions that make major decisions for us here in Georgia. I'm not talking about on the national level. I'm talking about here in Georgia, that controls our budget here in Georgia and how money is going to be distributed, how bills are going to be passed in the state. And if there's no momentum, you're going to run into the same thing that they try to do with this presidential election, as far as motivating people. No, don't wait till then. The time is now. You got 2 years to make a difference when it comes down to the votes. And there was millions of dollars that was spent. Another issue that with the Democratic Party, when it comes down to Constitution and people's freedom to vote for who they want to vote for, we had independent candidates that had qualified to be on the ballot. The Democratic leadership went out of their way and spent $250 million to keep RJK, Robert Kennedy Jr., off of the ballot in all 52 states. They sued him.
But he had a big part in that too, because he sold his spot to the Republicans.
No,
and just tonight they announced that he's going to get that position. So we disagree on that.
Before that.
That's okay. We're going to agree to disagree. I got to tell my audience.
You're right.
He paid, and he was waiting for Ms. Harris to call him to see which spot he was going to take. Some of that is politics, and politics is money. We could, wait, Sigrid has something to say. Honorable Stovall, I agree with you. Where I live, there was little campaigning here. She lives in Louisiana. She's agreeing with that. She said they had nothing. She said, the way they sent out the ballots, there was no ballots sent out. So it wasn't even in the states. Atlanta and Georgia, I'm going to say Atlanta because a lot of us went into small areas. Like my area was Milledgeville. So I covered the Milledgeville area. So a lot of us left from here saying what you're saying. And this is something good we have to learn from next time. So it's like some of us picked a little spot, a small spot. Like I said, mine was Milledgeville. So we went down there. So Milledgeville got some help with, we did the South Side with help. So I agree with that. I agree with that. We have to stay alive, and that's why we have Vivacious Speaks,
Mm-hmm.
um, because we want the people's voice to come alive. We don't only want, I'm sorry, politicians, and please don't misunderstand what I'm saying now.
Yeah, I
And
don't.
their games and stuff they play. We want the voice of the people to be heard. That they don't feel so free to do all of that stuff. That the voice of the people come alive again. And again, I just want to say I thank you for being here, giving it to us. So that's what Sigrid have to say. Did you have anything you want to say to her?
Yeah, one of the things is that they had what was called battleground states, and those are states that with the previous presidential election, either Biden that the Democrats had won, or it could flip either way. It could go Republican, it could go Democrat. So it's kind of like almost 50-50. So that's why you saw more presence with the presidential candidates in certain states, way more than they did in other states. And then those ones that were battleground states, those are some of the ones that had those electoral votes that they were going to need in order to get to the 270 win number that was needed in order to be announced as the presidential winner. So when she was talking about that, some of the areas that she didn't see in the campaigning there, and it shouldn't be there, because what you want is you want the momentum to be across, and that's where you have your local parties have a job to do, is making sure that that momentum that's coming from the national level trickles all the way down to the local level, so everybody is energized and everybody is making sure that they know when they're supposed to vote, how they're supposed to vote, are they registered, and you have different laws in different states as well. Like you have some states you can go and register and vote on the same day. In Georgia, it's not like that. You have to have a certain date that you have to register by in order for you to be able to vote in that upcoming election. So understanding the laws is very important as well in the area wherever you stay or live. Is understanding the laws so you'll know how to best benefit off of what those policies are in your local jurisdiction on your local state level.
Honorable Stovall. Now, this is a big deal that you brought up, and this could really help, because that's New Orleans is one of the largest cities in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
That the that the Democratic Party didn't plan or organize well, because where were the people who not only Sigrid, if you could help us with this, was there any local, there was no federal, but was there any local campaigning done? How do a person in that area, because that's very significant what you're giving us, is very
Mm-hmm.
significant. How does that, how do they, what I want to say, bring alive the politics in the area so it could work for them? How do you do that?
Yeah. So there were just about local elections just about across the board, even in just about all the states. And it's like I said, if you're not always actively involved, you might get confused with a whole lot of when what election takes place during what year. You have some in the odd year, some in the even year, and so keeping up with all that can be overwhelming for the average voter. And that's why it's important when you start having the different parties. That's part of their job and responsibility, is educating their the local community about that whole process of when these elections are taking place, what you need to make sure you have done, and keeping them engaged, not just during election time. And so that's a response. And then you have other organizations that do a lot when it comes down to advocacy training and getting the word out about voting. And so election preparation is year round. It's not only a month before election, 2 months, 3 months before election. It's year round. And I think if there's more of a concerted effort to make sure it's year round, when you're constantly having people engaged and what's going on in the election process, in the process of how local policies are made and created, how they directly or indirectly affect you. I think you will see more voter participation and understanding, and you won't have to tug and pull so much, to get people out. Because just like all the work that you did down in South Georgia, Middle Georgia, with Milledgeville, and because Georgia was one of the swing states, more money and resources were put into Georgia than may have been in Louisiana, because Louisiana may have already been predicted to go Republican, or it may have already been predicted to go Democrat. And so when you had those toss-up states, I think like Wisconsin was one, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, I can't think of the others that were, you constantly heard the candidates going to those locations. I know even in Georgia, they were here a lot of times. Both candidates were here in different parts of Georgia, talking and getting people activated to, hey, come out and vote for me, whichever the candidate, was, depending on who it was, that was like that. But and it may be something that is it Sigrid? Is that how you pronounce? Okay. And it may be something that Sigrid and might be some other people like her, I don't know if it's a her or him, like that person that say, I want to see something much better done in my community. It's nothing stopping individuals from getting together and form their own little group to say, well, you know what, we're not going to wait on the party to do anything for us. We want to see a change happen in our own community. And it starts with us because we are the voters. And so it might be 5 of them to get together and say, you know what, in our community, we're going to make sure we have 100% voting going on in our community, if not 100% close to it. Okay, I know these other people, they usually don't vote. We need to go have a conversation with them and ask them, what is it that, why you don't vote, or why are you not engaged? What can we do, or what can the local elected officials do to keep you engaged and knowing what's going on? That's what's called accountability. That's a whole nother subject. When you talk about once somebody's elected, now accountability is the next step. With keeping them accountable for what they said they were going to do if they were elected. And if you don't keep elected officials accountable, they go do whatever they want to do. And then when it's time for re-election, they come back and feed you all this information. Oh, I've done this and that. And you don't have a checklist because you weren't holding them accountable. You're supposed to have a checklist. Okay, you said this. You sent me this flyer. I got it in the mail. And when I got that flyer in the mail, you said you're going to do this and that. And like Sigrid and her group, start holding them accountable. And if they don't do it, you don't vote for them. Or if one of y'all run for office to replace that person. And once they start knowing that they are held accountable, you'll start seeing changes. And that go back to what I was saying about you have the national level, then you have the state level, and you have the local level. So you got 3 levels of government. And so just focusing on the national, you're going to miss a whole lot on the state and the local elections, because they'll make a decision that affect you immediately. In Washington, D.C., it takes time for those decisions to come down and trickle all the way down. But if you're at a city council meeting and they have a zoning meeting about a business that want to be located in your neighborhood, and they put up a sign, because they have to put up a sign saying that they're going to have a hearing, and you didn't pay attention, you thought somebody just had a sign up. They've had a hearing, they've changed the zone, and now they have businesses that are undesirable that can come into your community, and you're trying to figure out, when did that happen? You weren't paying attention to what was going on locally, and that happened immediately. Even on the state level, there are laws and policies that are put in place that happen immediately that are affecting you as a local person. So going back to kind of original what we talked about earlier, don't get so consumed with what's going on the federal level. Yeah, pay attention, but you better make sure you're paying attention on your local and your state level with that, because whatever it is that the administration is going to roll out, guess what? It's going to trickle down to the state level, and it's going to trickle down until the local level.
This is so good. This is so good. It's so good. Wow. I'm just so blessed. I'm just so blessed. I'm learning some things too, you know. I'm learning some things too. I want to do more about accountability. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe you could tell us a little bit, like in 2 years, because we don't want to die. We all fired up because
Mm-hmm.
even if it's because our candidate didn't win and we all don't know what this person is going to do, right? How do we find out how we hold accountable to the people who are in our who's our local government? How do we handle our local and city governments? Because in some places, I'm just thinking of some places. I'm from New Orleans. Some places we really need to be talking about. This street has been like this since Hurricane Katrina.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you find out who's running? When do you find that out? How you guys qualify and who's running, and even how to get somebody qualified.
Yeah. So in some areas they have, I'm gonna go back to the party again, because a lot of this falls on the party's responsibility, and whether it's Democrat Party, whether it's Republican Party, you don't see too much when it comes to independent. It depends on what state, because some states do, like Vermont does recognize independence, because Bernie Sanders is an independent U.S. senator. So there are some states. So what you have to do is find out what is the information in your particular state, because each state, because we are our states have a certain level of autonomy when it comes down to laws that they that they're able to pass. So you want to find out for your particular state, what are those policies. In first place is probably, you can always check with the Secretary of State, and the name might not be necessarily be Secretary of State, but the person who handles all the elections. There's each state has a department that oversees all the elections for that state. And then on the local level, and so all of them kind of report back up to the state, but on the local level, a lot of the elections are held by the county. So you may be going talking to your county. Like, I give you an example, in Clayton County, even in Fulton County, they have an elections board. And so a lot of people been hearing a lot of, especially locally, you've been hearing a lot of talk about the elections board, and how they're executing the count of the votes and all of that. So the elections board is appointed by the commissioners. So these are the people that the people elect as their county commissioners. They're the ones that appoint the people to some of them to the elections board. And then the party also has a appointment that they're able to make as well to the elections board. So I'm since we're talking about parties, I'm gonna use this probably the simplest way, the easiest way, without it being too complicated and people getting frustrated and say, there's just too much you talk about. I don't even know what else to do.
I think we're taking notes. I think we're learning, because this is what people want to know and need to know. You're excellent.
So I would say talk with your party, whichever party you're affiliated with, and I mean political party, and attend their meetings and ask questions, because they have different committees as well that are set up in that, supposed to be in that county party, that local party, and tell them that you're interested, you want to get more involved with the election process, you want to help get some people knowledgeable and bring them out to the different meetings, because you want to go to your city council meeting. But some people may stay in unincorporated areas that don't have a mayor or city council. So then you go to your county commission meetings. And I know, like in Georgia, and specifically I talk about between Fulton and Clayton, that they have open meetings that the public can go to. You can even sign up if you want to speak at the meeting, and you might start with that. If don't feel comfortable speaking, then at least attend the meetings. And most of it now, because of COVID, a lot of the meetings are still online, so you might not physically have to go there. So you would go to either, if it's the city, you would go to the city website and look for they usually have it up under governance or something like that, but look for mayor, city council meetings for your city. And you might have to call and ask them, hey, when do the city council meet? And most of them meet twice a month. And they have one meeting that's a worker meeting, and the other is actually when they make decisions. And then for your county, they have meetings, and there's usually some of them are twice a month. And you can go and attend those meetings. And that's how you start finding out what's going on, because they have an agenda. I always ask for the agenda so you'll know what it is that they're going to be talking about for that meeting. And then that way, and you looking and identifying who your elected officials are. So in Georgia, we have my voter page, and that's where everybody goes to see what precinct they're supposed to vote at. But also on my voter page in Georgia, they have a tab on there that says elected officials, my elected officials. That's where you're going to find out who's your city council, who's your county commissioner, who's your district attorney, who's your state elected official. It has all these elected officials, and they usually don't have the person's name. They have a number, which is their district number. So what you do is you Google. So say for instance you're in Fulton County and it says you're in Commission District 1. Then you'll put Fulton County Commission District 1, and you Google it. It's going to bring up that person's name. Now you have a face to put with who's your representative for that area. And then now, say for instance, you say, I'm going to go to a county commissioner meeting. Now, when you go, you're looking for that person face up there on that dais. And then if it's something that you hear them say that you don't understand, then you're able to either get with them after the meeting or look up their information and send them an email or call their office. Say, hey, I saw I was at the meeting. You voted like this. I want to know what is that about. Now you're becoming to be civically engaged with things that are going on the local level. And once you start getting comfortable on the local, it's easy to do state and even on the federal level, because you have one person that represents you in the House, and you have two people that represent you in the U.S. Senate on the federal level. So now I'm bringing you back around to when I talked about the Trump administration and those who are elected up under him. Once you start learning how to engage, then you're able to write them an email, call their office. Hey, I see this going on. I'm concerned about this. What is going on? How much money is being sent down to my state? And then the state sends money down to the county and the cities. So that's a whole nother thing to understand the budget process. So a lot of things that you might see, like you talked about the road in Louisiana, why aren't those roads being paid? Is it something dealing with money? It's coming down, but it's not being spent how it's supposed to be. Then you start asking those questions. Hey, how long is it going to take? I noticed on the other side of town, they don't have no potholes like we have over here on this side of town. But I pay taxes just like they pay taxes. So why we don't have this on our side of town? So that's when you start having people civically engaged. And then when elections come up, they got a checklist. Okay, this is my commissioner. Okay, this is my state representative. This is my state senator. This is my mayor. Okay, yeah, they did a good job. Oh, no, they didn't do a good job. Okay, I heard such and such is running. Let me go find out what their platform is and compare it to the person that's the incumbent, that's the current elected official. Now you got a comparison going on, and you can ask questions. Listen, I attended that meeting, and my commissioner voted like this. I didn't like the way my commissioner voted. Now, how would you vote if you were elected in that position? So now there's accountability that you're doing. But I would definitely say start locally. First, attend the city council meeting if you stay within the city. And if you're not sure whether you stay within the city, look at your if you're a homeowner, you can look at your tax bill. If on that tax bill you'll see nothing about city sewage or city city taxes, that means you don't stay in the city. If you just see the county on there, then that means you stay in unincorporated. That means you don't have a mayor or city council. So that's probably the easiest way to explain it. If you're a renter, which is fine, then you may want to talk to your landlord and ask them or go to the rent office and say, hey, do we stay in the city limits or are we in unincorporated? And another way to find out, in some areas, if you call the police, which police actually post your location. If you see the city on their police when you call the police or somebody call the police in your area, then you're in the city. If you see it's the county when you call, then you're in the county. And sometimes the city and the county work together, but most of the times they kind of differentiate on their jurisdiction. And if it's, even though you might have like the city of Atlanta, it's in Fulton County, but it also DeKalb County. And so sometimes you may see DeKalb come over to Atlanta side, but you're not going to see them a whole lot. Most of the time, you're going to see the city of Atlanta in city of Atlanta and not in the other parts of it. So those are just a tidbit of information. I don't want to overwhelm everybody because it's so much more, to get involved. But starting locally and starting where you feel comfortable. Find an issue that's important to you and go and research and find out how your elected officials are voting on these issues that are important to you.
This has been marvelous. I hope, as we digest this part, and I'm sure people are going to watch this video more than once. I know that I am. I'm going to watch it again. Because when I write, I remember. It's like when I write it on my mind, and it stays there. So I will definitely be in this be in this video for a little while because I want to stay. I want to stay alert. I want to stay active. I want to stay participating. I want to stay awake. And you have just totally touched everything that Vivacious Speaks and Moments with Vivacious is all about. We are so grateful. We're so grateful to you right now. I'm glad that we finally got you and hope that you'll come back again. But what is there something that you want to leave us with, please?
Definitely is that, staying involved is very important. And because we live in a country that we always talk about with freedom, and that comes with being involved, that comes with being accountable, holding our elected officials accountable on all levels. And when we hold them accountable, then we have better services that they're able to render to us and what we receive in return for our votes that we have given to these people, the people that are elected, because you're trusting them to be your voice. And you're not going to agree with everything that all your elected officials do, the decisions that are made. There are some decisions made that sometimes you don't know what's behind the scenes of that negotiation that's going on behind the scenes. But staying involved, and even when I was elected, the constituents I had that, and I always took time to educate my constituents on the process, just kind of like what I'm doing now. And those ones that stayed involved, they made my job so much easier, especially when there were controversial things that may have come up, because I can, hey, y'all, this came up. What y'all want me to do? How should I handle this? And it made them, empowered them as well, that they now could go anywhere or go and have a conversation and don't feel intimidated, with talking with elected officials. And so as we are getting prepared for ending out, this year of 2024 and getting prepared for January 2025, look at it as, a opportunity. How can what's important for me as a citizen, a non-citizen, a voter, or whatever your status is, how can I look at what opportunities that may be available for me that I can take advantage of for me and my family? and move in that direction. And I think that that may lessen the heartache that a lot of people have, and it's going to take some time because a lot of people were very involved, just like with the election, and they took it to heart. This election was their election, and the candidate they chose was their candidate, and that's fine because that's good. But take that energy, the same energy that you had, that everybody had, and look at it. How can I make my community better? And starting locally and then moving up. And then that way your focus is not always on Washington, D.C., but it's focused on how can I touch and reach the people in my reach, in my community, to make it better, make lives better for all of us so that we can survive whatever that survival is supposed to be, but we can be able to work together and survive.
Um, the last thing I want to do is drain you, okay? But it is one thing for me that if I can, I want to talk about Washington D.C. just one more itty little bit of time.
Okay, go ahead.
This, this is what I want to know. Thank you so much. Um, your smile is even in your mannerism is so comforting.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for everything you bring tonight. But how do we? Because like 2025 project and all of that stuff. How do we make sure and how do we hold our federal representatives accountable for staying on top of these things? Because we always end up on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like after they do something, then we try to fight it. It's already done. How do we get on offense? How do we make sure that how do we is it possible?
Well, I don't claim to have all the answers. I just have a few opinions about some things, and it goes back to what we've been talking about: is being engaged. Go ahead and start now. You just finished up with the election. Maybe take you a week breather, and then reach back out to your federal elected officials, all those ones that were elected. If you're not sure, go back and Google the election results in Georgia. If you're in Georgia, whatever state that you're in, and identify who your one representative, U.S. representative is, and your two U.S. senators, because those are your voices on in Washington D.C. And reach out to them, send them an email, call their office, and say, "Hey, I would like to get some more information. Can I join your email list?" All of them usually have an email list, and so that's another way to stay involved in what's going on in Washington, D.C. is join their email list. Ask them, do they have any committees you might could serve on? Do they have community committees, for going out to the different meetings or when they come, or what's their schedule when they're going to be out in the community again? And then when they say, hey, I'm going to be visiting this location, just like people going to the rallies whenever Harris came or Trump or whoever the elected officials came to tell everybody, oh, well, they're going to be over here. Do the same thing with your federal elected officials. Hey, where are you going to be? If you're going to be at this church, I want to know. I'm going to go to service that's here. You talk, or I'll meet you after service. So getting engaged starts now. Take your week break. Take a 2-week break. Don't break too long, because once January starts, everything is going to be going like this, not just on the state level, but on the federal level. So you want to catch them now, because they're concerned too. Those Democratic elected officials are very concerned, just like the people are. And so you all engaging with them, saying, "Hey, what's the plan?" Okay, you've been up on his administration before, because a lot of them are returning back to office, have been there a while. Okay, so what it is, how can I help? What we need to be doing, and start asking them questions. But getting engaged now, don't wait till January, because then you're gonna get all frustrated again. But so asking them no questions, what's the possibility of Project 2025? And then what are some things? What are you all gonna be working on as a party to combat this, and how can we as the citizens be engaged to be able to help you all do your job up in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Please feel free. Anytime you feel like something come up and you need to talk to the people about it, come to Moments with Vivacious. We're gonna definitely have you in studio. And I love you so much. Thank you for being here.
I love you. I appreciate everyone. And y'all take a breather. Say, inhale, whoo, exhale. And like I said, at the end of the day, God is still in control of everything that we do, and nothing is a surprise to him. It may be a surprise to us. A lot of people are surprised, but it's never a surprise to him.
Thank you.
Thank you.